And we're live. Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, depending on when and where you're watching the Healthcare Thought Leadership LinkedIn live show. This is a pop-up version of my regular show that I normally do. Used to do it on Friday. Some of you that watch a lot on Fridays. Now we've moved it to Tuesdays, every other Tuesday in the month. But I wanted to do this pop up and talk about what's going on in my home state of North Carolina, in my region of the country, East Tennessee, North Georgia, but particularly what's happening in North Carolina. And I'm very fortunate to have a connection with Michelle Fortune. Michelle was a former CEO of the hospital in Trine for a very long time, and now she's the president of one of the major service lines for Mercy and the ministry leader there. Michelle, thanks for taking, I know you just got internet back just yesterday.
Last night.
Yeah. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show. And you and I have been connected on LinkedIn for a while, but we've never had the opportunity to meet in person. But I would love for you to just introduce yourself, and then we'll jump in. We're talking about Hurricane Helene and its impact on that region of the Carolinas and East Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. And from a healthcare leadership perspective, how we might could get involved and support, because this is going to be a long process. And we've been up to Murphy dropping supplies off recently for airdrop, and we didn't get to see any of the damage yet. I'll be going to Rutherford County in a week or two to help out and give some relief to some of the people that have been there. But Michelle, introduce yourself first, and I think you're muted and unmute. Introduce yourself, and then we'll jump right in. If you're watching live, post in the comments. Let us know where you're watching. If you have questions for Michelle, please post them in the comments. Thanks for being here. Michelle, how are you doing?
Compared to so many people here, I just feel incredibly blessed. My house is still standing. And like you said, I got power, water, and internet back last night. Would have been a week today that's been out. So I feel incredibly thankful and grateful. And thanks, Marion, for having me on the show. I think to your point, you've referenced already, I'm a North Carolina native. Most people can tell that from the accent. It's
Me too.
An accent from Jonas Ridge, North Carolina, up near Linville. And I tell you, 52 years I've been in North Carolina and lived away for a couple of years in the middle of that. And then people said I found my common sense and came back home. So I've never seen devastation like this before. And, having lived in Texas, in Colorado, I've visited a lot of places with my career and traveled a lot and seen a lot of places that have had tornadoes or lived, through hurricanes when I was in Texas. And certainly a lot of devastation and damage that I've seen. But I think this storm was just different because of the wide and deep swath of its impact. And, tornadoes in many of these locations, including Western North Carolina, they believe during the middle of the hurricane, and flooding in areas where people just were prepared. Here in Polk County, our leadership had really had the thought and foresight to draw down Lake Adger by 4 feet, and still it wasn't enough. I mean, it flooded homes, it destroyed the area up there, the dam and bridge. It just looks like a war zone up there. And imagine if they hadn't done all of those preparations. So I think, people here were certainly trying to prepare. I've gotten that question some. People saying, well, why didn't y'all get more ready? People were. They had stores of, food and batteries and things. But, honestly, they never dreamed that they'd be without power and water and everything for the better part of a week. And, I'm in the minority. I mean, people who have gotten their power back because I live right near the downtown. You talk about the people that are in a remote space.
Yeah.
It's hard. My background is in nursing. I got my nursing degree right here in Western North Carolina. And So it's my heart and passion to serve here, and to see so many hurting and their homes, lives, and businesses just destroyed is tough.
Yeah, it is. And, you and I talked offline, and like I said, this is the first time you and I've ever had a chance to actually talk, but I'm a native of North Carolina as well. And all those places you mentioned, even though I grew up in the Western Piedmont down in the Concord, Lake Norman area, we spent most of our weekend time and weeks in Wilson's Creek and in Linville Gorge and up on Table Rock. Jonas Ridge is a great place to go see, and it's the good people up there. Morganton, Marion, North Carolina, and that whole region. And of course, I have family all in that region as well. And just like you, they were very fortunate; they didn't have the damage. But the one thing I think is different, and the interesting thing about it, one of my closest friends lives down in the Wilson's Creek area, had to be helicoptered out. He and the group of people that he lives there down in, and that's all dirt roads, and it's all gone. One of the things that's so much different about this storm is not only is there's widespread damage, but a lot of towns, they're not just damaged, they're gone. Like they're literally gone. Like Chimney Rock's gone.
It's gone.
gone.
I mean, it's gone. I was looking at a picture just this week of the downtown that I had that, was the Chimney Rock I know. And then
me too.
Look at the picture today and there's nothing. It's gone. And to your point, a lot of these areas are so remote. Here in Polk County, they're still rescuing folks by helicopter here.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't get to them because of the gorge here and the wilderness. I mean, it's a very unforgiving landscape here in the North Carolina mountains, as you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, for people who don't know it well, I mean, I can remember many, many times people sharing each summer, don't go into these gorges and mountains as a hiker without preparation and without taking somebody who knows this area, because it's really unforgiving. And I think we're seeing that play out now with all the storm damage on top. It's incredibly challenging and dangerous for the rescuers that are here, for the linemen and women, for the crews that have come in, because it is a challenging environment to try to get to folks. I know the church that my husband is part of has been feeding people each day. And today, a gentleman just got out. He hadn't eaten in 3 days. 3 days. Yeah. He's gone without food. And so I think we are really still just seeing a lot of people, thankfully, being found alive. And at the same time, they are having to remove people's bodies from rivers and lakes here as they start getting through the rubble. And many hundreds are still missing from each of these counties that you mentioned, Burke and Avery, McDowell, Rutherford, Polk. Still lots and lots of people missing.
Yeah, a lot of that going on. There's some people checking in live, and if you're watching live, please let us know in the comments that you're watching, or if you watch the replay, post in the comments as well. The reason that's important is because it helps us understand our reach. And again, I didn't get to publish or publicize this one very much. This was kind of a short-term notice. Wasn't even sure if Michelle's going to be able to get online, but she is, so that's awesome. Teresa Barnes is checking in. Teresa, such a timely subject. She's such a great guest. She has a great North Carolina accent. Yes, you do. You just posted something about that. And just someday I'll tell you the story about when I first started in recruiting and executive search 33 years ago. I was told I was going to fail miserably because of my North Carolina hillbilly accent. So totally got that. And she says, thank you all for doing it. And by the way, Teresa's from Chapel Hill. She's from North Carolina as well. Shane Pilcher's checking in from Chattanooga. And Mary Dunn White, a former partner of mine who now lives in Hilton Head, she lived in Hickory for years, so she's familiar with Western North Carolina as well. Tell me, Michelle, we've been watching kind of all the different relief efforts that are going on from a lot of different angles. We took supplies up through a group to Murphy for airlifting west. We only live an hour south of Murphy in the Georgia side, but from a healthcare leadership perspective, most of my audience are healthcare leaders from literally all over the country. What's some of the things that you think they can do to start helping support the humanitarian relief here, because it's going to go on for a very, very long time, as you mentioned. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Marion, thank you for calling that out, because I think my husband and I were interviewed by WBTV this week, and in a portion of the clip that did not air, the reporter had asked me, what's one other thing that you feel like people should know? And I said, this is a society that in a week or two will move on. Like the next thing happens and we're moved on. And I think people need to understand this is not a 2-week or 2-month ordeal. I mean, the damage here is so extensive that people are going to need help. And there's usually an outpouring at the front end. The first week or two, oh my goodness, everybody is trying to figure out how they can help. And then after 2 weeks, it's sort of, we're on to the next, issue, and we're not connected anymore. So I think healthcare leaders, first of all, can really be intentional about making sure that they connect to this for the longer term. I mean, the biggest part of the work is going to happen over the next 12 months. Obviously, there will be, efforts much longer than that. Some of these places will never be rebuilt. But I think being intentional about connecting with colleagues that there, making sure they're okay, do they have needs, I think is huge. NCV as in Victor, OAD, NCVOD. Is a great website for people if they have supplies that they want to share or they want to volunteer. That is coordinated at the state level, and I think really helps make sure that from a healthcare perspective, if you say, wow, our team, wants to do something of a larger scope or scale, that's a great place to connect to make sure that that you can stay really in sync with the EOC efforts that are happening here in the area.
Repeat that, and I'll that website again, and I'll put the link in the chat. What's the
NCVOAD.org?
NCVOA. Yeah, North Carolina Volunteer Organizations Active in Disaster. Yeah,
That's
I'll put that. Thank you for sharing that. And a lot of people have asked me, because we've been involved with already early, and we have a lot of friends already involved early in the situation. It's like, who's reputable? Who should we connect with? I know the North Carolina Hospital Association's foundation, for example, has a fund you can contribute to that'll help with the employees that work in healthcare organizations. Because let's face it, a lot of these people that work at the hospitals, like in Rutherford or Marion or wherever, you name it, your hospital, they're impacted as well. Some of them, a lot of them may have lost their homes as well.
Absolutely. I mean, these are neighbors and friends and people that, like you said, their home is flooded. They're working. My sister, for a great example, her home filled with 7 feet of water, and yet she's out trying to help people and feed them. And so you're right. People who work in these humanitarian organizations like she does, or they work in a hospital or a healthcare organization, they're going to work every day. And the hospital's operating on generator. I know here, our critical access hospital in the county just got its power back the other day. They still don't have internet, and they're, trying to use Starlink and keep things going. But it's tough because they've got needs at home, and yet they're coming out to try to take care of all of us. So you referenced North Carolina Hospital Association. I think NCHA is a great organization. The North Carolina Office of Rural Health, another great place that's really trying to organize efforts. And those are 2 sites on LinkedIn or Facebook that can be followed to try to see what the efforts are. We on the ground here, we've had an outpouring of, certainly FEMA is here, World Kitchen is here doing some cooking. Samaritan's Purse has set up over at Appalachian Regional near Boone a very large oxygen tent to try to help folks. And I know they've been all over this area as well, trying to give out food and supplies. The Tryon International Equestrian Center, that's another page that people can follow for specifically Polk, Rutherford, and Henderson County area, because TIAC is really a major distribution point. They're taking a lot of supplies. They've got a lot of drive-through efforts, and they're feeding a lot of folks over there as well. Last thing I would say is the faith community in this area is really engaged. And I think lots of these pastors are talking. I know Baptist with a Mission or Baptist Men on a Mission. I don't know the specific name, but they are here doing a lot of work. I think some of that is connected to the Billy Graham Association, which, as you know, has a home base in Charlotte. So I think this really has pulled them to come in. But local churches, I think, are another great source of just reaching out and saying, like, who's really distributing things for the needs. I know the church that I attend here, they are feeding people every day, and they've sort of become a conduit for things that are coming from other areas. And maybe it's someone wants to, Amazon in a whole lot of T-shirts that, could be given to people, because people forget these folks who've lost everything.
They don't
have bed linens. They don't have socks. They don't have underwear. They don't have toothpaste. They don't have dog food for their dog or cat. They have nothing. And so I think the faith community is a really important one to not forget, because a lot of these mountain and rural individuals, they trust their church more than anybody else. And that's where they're going to go for help.
Yeah, very much culturally, again, growing up in that region and understanding that. And Peter Eichelbell's checking in from Atlanta. He's a healthcare executive that I know. We're glad to have him. Teresa asked, can we put a link on the public health resources? And I'll look for those to see what links that we can put on that as well. Michelle, tell me one of the things. So I want to talk about what you just brought up. And this is a cultural understanding that you growing up right there in the Morganton, Jonas Ridge, Table Rock, and Hawksbill and all those places. Probably people are like, what are all those places? All those places are awesome. That's what those places are. Amazing places, Lake Lure and Chimney Rock. I think I told you offline. I think I learned to swim in Wilson's Creek, which isn't a creek, by the way. It's a river. A lot of damage in the Wilson's Creek Gorge area. But let's talk a little bit about from a culture perspective. You said, they tend to trust their churches more. As relief organizations go in there, as people go and want to serve there, because there's so many, as you're talking about, there's just outpouring. What are some of the things that they can do to understand that the culture of the people there, they're super giving, they're all working together, they're all just trying to live a life together. But historically, and I know that they've not trusted big government, right? They've not trust, right? They don't have a trust. So from a leadership perspective, what are some things that we need to be aware of from culturally if we're going to send people up there, or we're going to try to support that? I think that's a discussion we probably not many people are having, but I think it's important that we talk about it.
I think it's a perfect question. I'll give you first a story, because, North Carolina, we're storytellers, right?
Yeah, we are. Yes, we are.
When I first became the CEO of the Critical Access Hospital, it's here in Polk County, and I served in that role for about 5 years before, as you noted, taking another role outside of here. But I remember I came in, I'd worked in Charlotte for a number of years with Atrium Health, and I was going to meet some folks up in the Green Creek area that is one of the rural communities here in Polk County. Yeah. And I went up to the community center to talk to folks, went in with my suit on, ready to change the world for our critical access hospital. And there was, a room full of people. And the guy said, "So what are you going to do here?" And I opened my mouth and said, "Well, I hope I'm going to help meet needs here, because this is my home." And one of the guys looked over and said, "She's one of us."
Yeah.
And so I think, there is a deep distrust in a lot of these mountain communities of city folk. And, honestly, for good reason, many times. I think, these communities often have been ones that are just forgotten because they are so small. And I think over time, people have just learned to make it on their own. The mountain people are people of resilience and determination, and sometimes pride, right? I mean, it's hard to ask for help and they won't. They'd rather be harmed than ask for help. So there's all of those complexities happening when we talk about, like, how do we meet needs here? I would encourage people, try to make sure you do connect with these communities. Like I said, the faith communities are huge here. Local county governments and schools are perceived oftentimes much more trustworthy than those at the federal level or the state level. And again, not throwing off on our
it's just,
country,
absolutely.
That's just the reality in the mountain.
How they see it.
And so I think if you're coming in, make sure to connect with those local folks, the local sheriff, the law enforcement, the county commissioners, the local pastors, to say, like, how is the best way for us to get this to people who need it? Because while they'll go to the bigger, more organized things with the state or federal government, most of the time they go because someone in one of those roles has said, this is safe. Go there. You can trust them. They're going to help you with what you need. Let me drive you. Otherwise, they just don't go. And things here are grassroots. People communicate with each other. And, it's word of mouth advertising here that, hey, there is no local TV station in these mountain communities.
No.
It's up at Deb's Mini Mart where we have posted up the flyer.
Exactly.
You got to know the area that you're coming in if you're going to get the word out about resources to be able to really help people.
And thank you for that answer. And for those of you who are watching, we have people from all over the country, and we just want to try to give you a little insight on what the culture is in that region. And I live in the Appalachian region as well. And we almost got the storm. The storm kind of veered to the right. Matter of fact, my friends and family that all live in the impact zone, they were calling me on Thursday, making sure we were okay before the storm hit. So it was that same kind of thing. We were just very fortunate. It went a different direction. If you have questions, if you're watching live, you have or questions later, Michelle, I'm sure you'll come back on, post them in the comments and we can respond and let Michelle respond. I really do appreciate you spending some time on that. One of the things too, that I'll also, you mentioned a lot of the public resources. In 2010, I know I don't look like it, but in 2010, I did a fundraiser for a brain injury program in Huntersville, North Carolina. I'm a brain injury survivor, and I skateboarded all the way across North Carolina. I started right below the border of Elizabeth and Tennessee, north of Asheville, and I slept at fire departments every night. And the first stop on my trip in 2010 was at Bills Creek Fire Department, Lake Lure.
Wow.
And
I know exactly where that is.
You know
it's
exactly
like
where it is.
It's from my house. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. And this is how in 2010, how amazing the fire department people were. They knew I was raising money for that brain injury, and we had coordinated through other fire chiefs that helped me coordinate that whole trip. And I stayed at 11 or 10 different fire departments in my 11-day trip from there to Carolina Beach, and stayed at different fire departments. The Bills Creek one, we stayed at that satellite one that's up the mountain from Lake Lure. And they literally, when I got there, I had a support crew. When the support crew got there, the fire chief came by and threw them the keys to the building. That's the kind of people they are. Like, they didn't know us. They just gave us the keys to the fire department.
Go on in.
Go on in and make
take
yourself.
A shower,
Exactly.
I mean,
we're
seeing that now. I mean, in this post-hurricane event, I'll tell you, you're seeing like local bakeries that maybe had a small generator. They're baking up all kinds of bread and things, and they're sitting it out. Just take what you need. Like, we're not charging for this right now. It's just, here's a community picnic. Or salon owners who are saying, like, we don't have any power, but we've got cold water, and we'll do a cold water wash of your hair if you want to come in and just, here's the 3 hours you can come in for free, just pop in and we'll get your head washed. And I mean, these are people who they're very giving and they want to help. And that's why it's so hard to see these communities in such devastation, because they are people with the biggest hearts.
Absolutely. So to Michelle's point, other options would be reach out to those type of organizations. We're only got like 3 minutes left. Michelle, how can people get in touch with you? And I'm not asking you to be the director of relief efforts for us, but maybe can they connect with you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the LinkedIn platform is a great one to connect with me. I'm one of the administrators also of the Columbus Baptist Church Facebook page, who's doing a lot of humanitarian work here in Polk County. I mentioned that a couple times. So I monitor that site regularly as well. I think if people want to just message there, if we're not connected with the actual activity, we know who to connect you with. And I think we'd be happy to do that, whether it's, local hospitals or people at any of these other either state or county officials that could help you. I think the most important thing is if people have a heart and want to help, we will get you connected to the right person so that you can help, because we need you. And we're so grateful for even, the time to talk about what's happening here and the devastation that has occurred.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I posted this week, you made this point earlier, and I just want to double down on it. We do have a very short attention span. So what I recommended, and I think I stole this idea from somebody. I don't think I came up with it out of my own brain. Nothing comes out of my own brain. It's all we're storytellers, right, Michelle? It's like we take the stories that we
shamelessly repurpose people's, ideas, and I tell them, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this.
Exactly. So what I told everybody to do is put on their calendar a recurring reminder at a certain time every other week or every 3 weeks or the central part of the month for the next year and a half to check on the North Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia and Georgia relief efforts. Because there may be, let's say, for example, we run into a supply chain issue later. Heaven forbid that's going to happen again. They're going to need PPE. They're going to,
absolutely,
right? Because they can't get supplies in there.
Change. I mean, to your point, over the next 18 months, people are asking, like, what do you need now? Yeah. And there's a long list of those things that we've shared, everything from, water to non-perishable food items to, while people don't have power, no cook meals. And those kind of things are really important right now. But, fast forward a month, 6 weeks from now, it's going to be cleanup supplies, right? Work gloves and rakes and shovels and those kind of things, because there is a massive amount of cleanup that still needs to occur. And to your point, as we get into winter, I mean, now you've got all these people that have no homes or badly damaged homes. We may need tarps, we may need coats, we may need blankets. And then when you start the rebuild process, everything from how do you help if there was damage to parts of our healthcare system, our offices, and, are there people who say, I'd love to come and be part of sort of a, humanitarian building effort? Those changes are going to take place and shift over the next 12 to 18 months as we really get into the response efforts.
Absolutely. And Taya Romero reminded us, and I'm an animal person too. Amazing information. Thank you. Also, don't forget the animals.
Yes.
Taya's out in Kansas City, but she just donated to ashlandhumane.org. And another great thing to keep in mind.
Hey, it's a perfect statement. Like I mentioned earlier, people don't have dog food or cat food. We're telling folks, if you want to drop ship through Amazon, just pet food, it's a gigantic help. I know the Foothills Humane Society here in Polk County has really struggled, and they've been working with other humane societies to try to say, do we need to move some of these animals out until we can get some, resources here? So it's been an incredible effort to try to keep these furry friends and family members safe as well. So thank you for the call out.
Yeah, it's a great call out. And also, the large animal stuff, there's feed issues, there's all stuff going on in that regard. And we can talk about
floating down the river. I mean, whoever to try to get horses out of the river, because this is the equestrian world here. Yeah.
But anyway, thank you. And by the way, if you're watching the show live or you watch the replay and you're not connected with me on LinkedIn or connect with Michelle, please send us a connect request. If you'd like help in connecting with resources, one of the goals that I've set over the next year is to be kind of a conduit of, if I've got a healthcare executive in Texas, for example, who needs to connect with a hospital CEO, up in Boone, for example, Chuck, that's up there, Chuck Mantuk. Chuck Mantuk and I grew up in the same neighborhood, by the way, Michelle. He's also a Concord. He's also a Concord in North Carolina guy, right? So we all grew up. But Michelle, thank you so much. I know you're really busy with everything you're doing and with your own work and with your family and with your church and your husband's church and all involvement. Thank you for coming on the show in a short notice. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for having me. And thank you for your interest in Western North Carolina. We really feel your support and love, and we appreciate it. Have a great day.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Thank you so much. And I'm going to end the stream now. And my dog's starting to bark in the background. It's time to shut her down. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.